Chapter 1 Morning. Ethan woke up in a cold sweat. The sun outside was starting to make the sky turn gray. His alarm clock hadn't gone off yet, but it was going to go off in 5 minutes anyways. So, groaning, he got up anyway and checked himself in the full-length mirror. Sure enough, he still looked tired. The bags under his eyes were getting bad, and his nightmares were making him look even paler than he normally did. It was just another nightmare. Just another nightmare. He's had bad nightmares for a few months now, but this was one of the worst. Before, it was just things like shadows stealing from him, or a blue humanoid chasing him through the woods. But this was one of the worst ones he's had in a long time. He's never had a dream where Sharon was the monster. He turned away from the mirror, but in that split second before his eyes completely looked away from the mirror, something moved. Zari's already focused on it, but he couldn't see anything in the corner. It was a bit dark in the corner, but nothing could have possibly moved. Taking another deep breath and closing his eyes, he turned away from the mirror. If he couldn't see a hallucination with his eyes closed, then it was a hallucination. He remembered Sharon telling him that once. His face firmly turned away from the mirror, he opened his eyes. Sure enough, nothing but a messy room. Yesterday's clothes on the floor and Sharon's purse on his clothes pile. The bathroom only 5 feet away. The dark bathroom. That even with the door inside open, the early morning light couldn't penetrate into it. So anyone could be in there. Or anything. Even something alien. Stop it, Ethan told himself. There was nothing in there. And besides, even if his nightmare was right, which it wasn't, as long as he didn't think about it, then he would be all right. He took a step forward, trying to remember the words from an old lullaby from when he was a child. The words comforted him, even though he stopped trying to think about the meaning of the words years ago. The princess couldn't bear to lose her love, so she locked her prince away. With her heart kept him safe from the world, and then outside, and then she hurt him inside. Her love was his pain, and when she went to see him, she told her prisoner that the bars were her kisses, and the cold her embrace. But he didn't have love for her until he returned her kisses to her head and smothered her with her embrace. He sang the lullaby and turned on the light. There was nothing inside. A shower, a toilet, a closet, Ethan's makeup on the counter, and the sink. Turning on the sink and washing away the sleep from his eyes, he was already feeling a lot better. Continuing humming to himself, he grabbed the hand towel and wiped away the water from his face. Putting down the towel, he looked in the mirror, expecting to see himself in the mirror, a little brighter than he was a moment ago. The first thing Ethan noticed was how sick his skin looked. A blue-gray, much sicker and colder than even insomnia could account for. He looked like he was both freezing and dying from exhaustion from the way his skin looked. He would definitely need to see a doctor. His arms and hands looked lankier than normal. If he dropped his hands to his side, they would go down to almost his knees, and his nails looked even a darker black than his nail polish would normally let him go, and his nails seemed to extend almost as far as his hands. They also looked long and ragged like he used his nails for digging out tunnels. And his face. When Ethan saw his own face, he let out a long, blood-curdling scream. He had no eyes. Where his eyes should have been, there was only a smooth, extended forehead. His nose was a small bump with no nostrils, and he could feel himself hyperventilate from the thought of losing his air, even though he was still breathing fine when he clearly shouldn't be breathing. The mouth was perhaps the most terrifying part of his new reflection. The mouth was wide, almost an ear-to-ear smile, with sharp teeth that fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. His lips were bleeding into his toothy grin, and the red mixed with the terrifying white of his teeth. Then, his reflection began to move without him moving. The reflection moved its arms up and began to reach out to Ethan, almost like it was going to try and hug him through the glass. Ethan also felt his arms reach up. To his horror, it was like he was the imperfect reflection, and the alien in the glass was the true original. The alien reached closer and closer to the glass between itself and Ethan. Mere inches away from the glass, a desperate phrase came to Ethan's mind. Something he wasn't even sure where he remembered it from, but it felt extremely important right now. A phrase his grandmother taught him to yell if he felt he was having a nightmare. It would give him control over the nightmare, and if there was even a slim chance that this was all still a dream, Ethan was going to take it. "Does the black moon howl?" Ethan screamed at the top of his lungs. The creature didn't respond the way he expected. Ethan expected it to vanish like smoke, or maybe just ignore the phrase completely. Instead, it paused for a moment before finally speaking. "What the hell is a black moon?" it asked. In that moment, Ethan felt control over his own body again. Breaking away from the mirror, he ran out the door and slammed the door shut. Deep breaths in and deep breaths out. Something was very, very wrong here. Sharon sat up, sat up straight on the bed staring at him. "Why did you wake me up? Something's in the bathroom." "What do you mean?" "Something is inside the mirror." "Oh. Damn it, Ethan, you had a nightmare. That's all it was." "Nightmares don't appear in a mirror when you're awake, Sharon." "Really? Well, let me see this big, scary nightmare mirror." Sharon stood up and walked over to the bathroom door. Ethan kept standing at the door and shook his head, refusing to move. Sharon instead sighed and grabbed his arm, pulling him out of the way. "I got this. I'm not scared of aliens. Aliens are scared of me," she said, walking right in, and the door shut behind her immediately. Ethan let out a gasp and tried to open the door, but it felt like it was glued shut. Sharon, are you all right?" Ethan asked, worried about the alien now eating her while he was outside, unable to get in. It might be controlling her now, or it might be pulling her into the mirror. Or even worse, it might be crawling out of the mirror, opening its bleeding, wicked jaws, eager to chomp on her. "I'm fine, dummy. There's nothing in here," she told him. He was used to this tone when he did something she thought was stupid, and to him, it meant she was more mad with him than he expected. "Why is the door stuck?" "It got stuck because you slammed it." "I didn't mean to." "Think nothing of it. I'll get it fixed while you're at work." "Wait, I can't use the bathroom today?" "You'll have to use it at work." "Great." "What did you see in the mirror anyways?" "I saw the creature from the story you told me yesterday. The story about the alien that was really, really scary and a lot more than I could handle." There was silence on the other side of the bathroom door before she finally spoke up again. "I didn't tell you any story yesterday, let alone one about an alien." Ethan felt his heart speed up again before he tried to grab the only straw that he had. Just a moment ago you said that you weren't afraid of aliens. If you didn't tell me about an alien, why would you even say something like that?" he asked, trying to keep control of his situation. "I didn't say that either." "Sweetie, I think you're going to need to see a doctor. You're hallucinating and you are mishearing things and imagining entire conversations. You need some help before you hurt someone, or if you hurt yourself." Sharon told him, trying to sound worried. Ethan shook his head and turned away from the door. "I'm completely fine. I don't need to see a doctor." Just as he finished, Ethan let out another scream. He saw a movement out of the corner of his eye, and again when he focused on it, it was gone. Whatever it wasn't there, and he just proved it to himself. Okay. I'll go. "I'll make an appointment after work today," Ethan said dejectedly. Sharon called out from the bathroom. "Don't worry about it. I'll get you an appointment with my doctor. I'll text you the details later." Ethan saw the time on the clock and decided now wasn't the time to argue. So he put on his uniform and his apron before going out to the car to drive to his place of employment. Canceled Coffee. Canceled Coffee, as you can guess from the name, was a coffee shop in River City, right on the edge of the office district and the suburbs, catering to the residents of both who believed that they were too good for the slow old shops in River City's heart or the fast-paced, no-seat cafes downtown. The owner named it Canceled Coffee because his first 3 coffee house attempts were all canceled by the Department of Human Services. He said they wouldn't be able to cancel a work permit if canceled was already on it. Ethan didn't think it was true, but who was he to argue with the boss? Canceled Coffee was an okay coffee shop, but the owner was very insistent that everything on the menu had to have caffeine in it. Even the iced tea, instead of using ice cubes, used frozen coffee cubes. And if you had ever sold a caffeine-laced muffin to a parent of a small child, you'll learn very quickly why a caffeine-only menu isn't always the best idea. But it was the only place Ethan could find that would hire him, despite his lack of experience, a formal education, an informal education, and his inability to handle lethal doses of ionizing radiation. That was a long story, but that's why Ethan was no longer allowed to serve coffee brewed from a nuclear reactor. So, Canceled Coffee is where Ethan has been working for 3 years. Ethan's car was parked in the alley behind the shop before he adjusted his apron again and went inside with as much fake enthusiasm as he could manage. Going in through the back door, he got to work. Next thing he knew, the workday ended. By then, Ethan couldn't even remember most of what happened in that day. His body certainly felt the work, with the feeling of molten iron in his joints, his back being stiffer than a wooden rod, and the soreness of his hands and even new burns on his arms and legs. It looked almost exactly like a rash and was still itching. Finished with his shift, he went outside and checked his phone. Sure enough, there was a text from his girlfriend for an address for a doctor's appointment. Not far from where she went to school, there was a Dr. Noctis Mendesium. Apparently, he was a psychologist who specialized in nightmares. Ethan drove to his office. It was hidden away. Between where 4 different office buildings were, there was a very small office between all of them, almost completely invisible from street view. Parking in front of the office, Ethan approached the glass and took another gasp. His reflection was the monster again. He screwed his eyes shut, tight as he could, before opening them again. The monster was gone, no longer there. Ethan let out a sigh and opened the door, walking into the office.